As the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and that's very much the approach that Yamaha have taken with the Tracer 7 over the years. So what does this new, refreshed and refined 2025 model bring to the table? The 2025 models had quite a few tweaks over the previous version. Under this lovely new bodywork sits a revised frame, and in fact the only thing left from the previous models is the headstock. As part of the chassis changes, this new swing arm has been stretched too. That's 40mm longer than the previous model, and that stretched swing arm will add a little bit of stability and matches nicely with the new stiffened chassis. Yamaha obviously haven't neglected the front end, so we've got new 41mm diameter upside down forks from KYB to offer more rigidity and more feedback, and both the front and rear are adjustable both for preload and rebound damping. The tried and trusted 689cc CP2 engine sits at the bike's heart, putting out 73 horsepower and 68 Nm of torque. There's some minor adjustments to the gearing, and the new slip assist clutch smooths things out, as well as offering a very light pull on the lever. The ride-by-wire throttle brings not only rider modes but also cruise control as standard. The styling has been hit with a tickling stick as well, and I think Yamaha have done a very good job with it. They've knocked off some of those sharp edges from the previous model, and overall it looks more grown up, if that makes sense. Tank capacity has been increased from 17 to 18 litres, but more importantly than that, I think it's the restyling of this tank that has had a bigger impact, both from a point of view of the aesthetics of the bike overall, but also the feeling you get from that when you're in the cockpit. Okay, so that's the tech specs and the changes of 2025, but how does that translate into the real world when you're out riding the bike? Now, I've been riding this for a couple of weeks, and actually the first thing that I noticed when I picked it up from Yamaha is just how much roomier it feels. The changes to the cockpit, obviously we've talked about the longer swing arm and the kind of re-sculpting, bigger tank, all that sort of stuff, but when you actually sit on it, it just felt roomier, is the best way I could put it. There's a noticeable difference. Now, I'm 5'10", that's 178 centimetres with a 32-inch inside leg, just for reference. The seat at the moment is in its lowest position at 830mm, so I can easily touch the floor with that. But even with the seat in its lowest position, I've got a nice bend in my legs, I've got a good reach to the bars. Those bars feel nice and wide, really manoeuvrable. Just overall, for me, a nicer place to be. Now, although I've never reviewed the Tracer 7 on the channel before, I didn't realise that I have ridden a previous model, so I've got a reference point. And whilst I'm not going to say those bikes felt small or cramped, the small changes here do make a noticeable difference. It's a really nice place to be. I've done some distancing now. I've been out on the bike for a number of hours, and it's been really comfortable. The bike feels lovely and light and nimble, quick steering, but sure-footed. It doesn't feel twitchy in that sense like some other sort of fast steering bikes can do. And at 203 kilograms curb weight, that's fully fueled, everything in, ready to go, it tips the scales at a decent weight for this category. Now, lightness is a word that I could use for a lot of this bike, not just the overall weight of the bike. It's kind of where most of these bikes sit, at that sort of 200 kilo level. It feels lighter than that. Everything about the bike feels lighter. The clutch is nearly nice and light. The shift is precise but light. It feels incredibly manageable and manoeuvrable. Now, when I picked it up, I had to do quite a bit of filtering on the M25, which you always have to do. It just threaded through that traffic really easily. I think it would make for a very good commuter as well as tourer. And I don't want to use the phrase UJM because that sounds a little bit derogatory, and I don't mean it to be in this case. This is a bike that will do a little bit of everything on the road. Of course, I don't really need to say too much about the engine. It's the well-known CP2 engine. It's a fabulous engine, nice and flexible, pretty decent flat torque curve. It is tried and tested. and it works really well. I think in this new setup it is definitely, I think, noticeable how much sharper the bike feels. It's just a really nice combination. So here we go, 38 miles an hour, third gear, wind it up, and there's a nice linear progression of power. And obviously now we've got a ride-by-wire throttle, so we've got a couple of throttle maps that we can choose from. Now when you look at the street mode, we've got power 2, traction control 2. That's just the setting. There's no less power in terms of what the bike puts out, it's just the way that is delivered. There's a slightly softer delivery. If I put that into sport mode, you can see it changes to power 1, traction control 1. And now in that mode, there's a snappier throttle, more direct delivery of power. It's a nice lively engine, lovely, smooth, flexible. Start to get a few vibes. 6,000 RPM, you start to feel a little bit in terms of vibration. There's a tiny bit through the bars, no more than I would get on any other twin. Not very much at all in terms of vibration from the foot pegs. That seems to be isolated very well. A tiny little bit through the seat. Now, as I've already touched on, it's the change in the frame and that longer swing arm that's going to make the difference more to handling. And this bike is very precise, and it's equally as happy on twisty country back roads like this as it is when you're pootling through villages like this at 30 miles an hour, as it is on the motorway. The brakes are good as well, 4-pot radial calipers on here. Plenty of power, plenty of bite. The suspension on the bike is pretty good, and as standard when you jump on the bike in the base settings, you've got a nice taut, responsive suspension setup. A little bit firm, just to help keep things under control, but obviously you can back that off a little bit if you need to. But for a standard suspension setup, does the job perfectly. Let's talk a little bit about the screen as well. Now on this bike, you have a shorter screen than the GT. The GT comes as standard with a touring screen. This bike, you've got a shorter tinted one, which looks lovely on the bike. I think it suits it really well. In its lowest position, I get a decent amount of airflow come through. To adjust it, all you do is flick up that bar, and then you can lift it up or down, and then that just locked into place. Really simple. I like that. No faffing around with twisty knobs and difficult levers. Easy to do. My only gripe really is it's not really a great deal of difference between it being there and being in its lower position. If anything, being there, it throws a little bit more wind onto your helmet, but that of course will vary on your height and what helmet you're wearing. Most of the time I've ridden with it down in the lower position. I did get a little bit of rain when I was out on this, and to be fair, in the upper position it does give you a little bit more protection. One thing I will say about that though, and this is probably just me being an idiot, but you do have to be slightly careful with it. When it's up, you can probably see here there's like a recess under here. I was riding it back from Yamaha, and I got into a town and I put the screen down. I pushed that up to there and then pushed it down like that. What I hadn't realised I'd done is accidentally my little finger had gone into that recess. Because I was watching the road, I just did that, didn't notice it, and when I've done that, my finger shut into that piece, and it bloody hurt. So I'm not going to say that's a bad thing about this bike. It's just something to be aware of. You only do it once, because I did it once and I was like, ow, that was painful, and I'm conscious of it. But you know, I'll point it out for you. Now in terms of creature comforts, it's the base model, so it doesn't get much. There's no heated grips as standard. You do get cruise control, but that works well. Nice to see that on there. You've got a USB-C port down here. You've got another blanking port over here, so if you wanted to put a traditional 12 volt power supply, you can put that in there. You get handguards as standard as well, which is a nice touch, keeps the wind off your hands, which is lovely. And the controls are nice and simple. As I said, mode button there, just press that and you've changed modes. Simple, simple, simple. On this side, that's your cruise control at the top. You've got this rocker switch for your indicators, which are auto cancelling. If you push the button down here, that brings up your menu, and it's going to be much easier to cut away and show you that in a separate piece of film when I'm not riding, just to show you what all of those functionalities are. But you can change the themes as well. I don't like the standard theme particularly, so I've just got this one on, which is a little bit more basic, but I kind of like it. Fuel economy has been good as well. It seems to sip away at the fuel, and with the 18 litre fuel tank you get decent range out of it as well, so the distance between fill-ups is longer, perfect if you're touring. But overall it's just a really nice bike. Now I know that there's very few, if any, bad bikes out there. It's all about what you want from a bike and what it does. And for me, this does a lot at a good price. And the only things that I think I would like to put on it would be heated grips and a quick shifter. Outside of that, I think it's got everything that I would need. Maybe if you want to go 2 up, fully loaded with aluminium luggage, you might find that the power isn't going to be all that you need. But if you're a solo rider, then there's more than enough power here for you. Now obviously if this is meant for touring, we've got to do a little bit of motorway work on it, so I thought I'd bring you out and show you where we are. At motorway speeds, 6 gear, 4,500 revs. Screen's in its lowest position, so you might be able to hear a bit more wind on my face. If I put it up, slightly less wind. And it is a really comfortable bike. You can, and I have spent many hours in this saddle with no discomfort. If you do want to take a pillion, then they've got a nice comfortable perch there as well, and the grab rails I think have been done really nicely. They just look like part of the styling. Looks are of course subjective, but I think actually Yamaha have done well with this machine. They seem to have smoothed out the sharp edges. I think it looks a little bit less transformerish. I think it's actually quite a handsome bike. I would have no problems owning one of these. You get a lot of bike for your money. Actually, if I bung it through the configurator, let's have a look at getting this bike to the spec that I want. What would that cost? Now of course, if you're going to add loads of bits and pieces to it, it probably makes more sense to buy the GT, but this is a lower entry price point where you can add bits and pieces to it as you go. It's a nicely put together bike. I think the fit and finish looks really good on these. They always used to, for me, have a few too many sort of wires and cables and bits and pieces sticking out. Yamaha have neatened all of that up. It's just a really nice bike, and I'm quite taken with it. Whether I'd buy it or not is irrelevant for you guys, so let's just cut back to me to give you my final summary of the bike and we can wrap the video up.
So there you go, the Tracer 7 I think is more refined and a bit more grown up, and actually the gap between this and the Tracer 9 has been closed a little bit. This is still a friendly bike, it's easy to get on with, but I think these refreshes and the changes that have been made make this a bit more of a purposeful tourer. At £8,804, this is, I think, excellent value, and it's a very tempting package for those people looking for a middleweight tourer. As usual, I've tried to cover all the key points for the bike in the video, but if it does raise any questions, then let me know in the comment section down below. Equally, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this bike, the thoughts on the changes that they've made to it, the restyling, and if this is a sector that you've been looking at, does this bike now tempt you more than it did previously? I look forward to finding out, and so until next time, thanks very much for watching. Take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.